He is the fan without fear.
He's a completist, not a defeatist.
Collects comics year after year.
Supreme comic book leader.
Fight for justice that is blind.
An advocate, not a terminator.
With the awesome power of his mind.
He speaks for the devil in red.
This is the Fan Without Fear Completist Retrospective, and my name is Nick, the Fan Without Fear. Let's take a look at what's on our radar for today. Daredevil issue number 1, The Origin of Daredevil. Believe it or not, this book is not one of my favorite comics. As a completist, I think it's essential reading. It is the start of this story. It is going to lead us into some of the relationships between Matt, Foggy, and Karen and their personal life beyond the Daredevil mask. But honestly, it's not a very interesting origin story, especially for such an unusual character with such unusual powers. And honestly, I think I just bought it too many times. This is a story that's been reprinted probably more than any other Daredevil story. I must have 5 or 6 different copies, and every time I bought it, I read it. So I'm honestly just a little bit sick of it. And no matter what the hard sell on the cover says, the only characters in this book are the classic Daredevil characters. Matt, Foggy, Karen, the Fixer, Battlin' Jack, and Slade, who if you're hardcore like me, you probably know. But there is no Fantastic Four, no Spider-Man. This isn't the last time we'll see the popularity of Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four used to try to sell early Daredevil comics, but it is the most shameless. On the title page of this issue, we see a sample cover of Spider-Man number 1 and one final sales pitch, congratulating collectors who purchased that famous number 1 book and suggesting this title could be equally valuable. Everything in the way this book was promoted shows a distinct lack of confidence in the product, which is weird when you consider the talent who backed this issue. The cover was penciled by comic book royalty Jack Kirby, who helped create most of your favorite classic comic characters. Daredevil was created by living legend Stan Lee during his peak. And issue number 1 was drawn by Daredevil co-creator Bill Everett, best known for his work in the golden age of comics when he created Namor, the Submariner, who first appeared in Marvel Comics number 1. One last thought on the title page. Jack Kirby's cover art is reused here. This was not uncommon during the Gold and Silver Age to reuse cover art in the actual book, but I thought it was worth pointing out because to my memory, this practice was more commonly used in DC comics than in Marvel titles. But please, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong on that. This is Matt Murdock's first appearance, and this Daredevil origin is pretty standard, but the way in which these comic book giants told this simple story is masterful. The first page is dark and mysterious, until our colorful hero is finally revealed with a bright and shining heroic glow. As soon as Hornhead is on the scene, the reader is pulled right into the action. No more sales gimmicks. This exciting scene is allowed to stand on its own, and the artwork and dialogue are fast and full of energy. Here we see a Daredevil who is more reliant on acrobatics and wisecracks than heavyweight punches and ninja skill like the DD you know today. Keep in mind, especially those who were critical of Mark Waid's more fun look at Matt in recent years, Silver Age Daredevil was more of a jokester, almost on par with Spidey at times. Once the action has grabbed our attention and the thugs have all been bested by this clever devil, Matt Murdock's origin is laid out in flashback. Here we find many basic superhero tropes. Again, nothing shockingly original, but really well presented. Matt, like many young superheroes before him, is a nerdy loner. His mother is absent from the scene, and his father is a past-his-prime boxer determined to see his son succeed in life without fighting. See that kid with the bullseye t-shirt? Let's hope we never get a retcon in which Daredevil and constant antagonist Bullseye are revealed to be childhood rivals from the same neighborhood. Despite his father's wishes, Matt secretly trains his body as well as his mind. To raise money for his son's college education, Battling Jack Murdoch is forced to take work with Roscoe Sweeney, a boxing promoter known as the Fixer, which is a bit like being a surgeon and working under the nickname The Butcher. Life is perfect for the Murdoch boys until young Matt sees a blind man stepping into traffic and heroically pushes the elderly man out of the way of an oncoming truck. Joe Quesada did give us a retcon no one asked for, in which we get more of the old man's backstory. I don't think the events of that story are ever spoken of again, but be warned, you probably wouldn't like it. Matt's good deed saves the old man, but the truck was carrying radioactive material, and Matt has been struck in the face and rendered blind. The book wisely avoids discussing science, but this same accident has gifted the young hero with super senses and a mysterious new radar sense. Here's where things slow down a bit for me, as suddenly the comic starts trying to sell us something again. The exposition gets a little thick as Stan Lee tries to explain to us why a blind man with supernaturally enhanced senses is a good idea for a superpower. Don't get me wrong, Matt's powers are awesome. But I'm nonplussed by Stan Lee's practical examples, including recognizing people by cologne, feeling to see if a gun is loaded, and tasting salt. Back in the story, Matt's college roommate, Franklin Foggy Nelson, gets tickets for the boys to attend a major fight for Battling Jack. To no one's surprise, the Fixer asks Jack Murdoch to fix the fight and take a dive. Jack refuses to go down with his boy in the crowd, and is shot and killed after the bout. Understandably, Matt is depressed, but Foggy asks him to join him in a new law office, and Matt graduates college with high honors. The famous partnership of Nelson and Murdoch is founded, and beautiful-sounding secretary Karen Page is hired to work for the firm. Continuing his lifelong pattern of secrecy, Matt chooses a cruel nickname from his boyhood as a second name for himself to keep the promise to his father that Matt Murdoch will not become a fighter. He sews a devil costume for his alter ego and modifies his blind man cane to double as a weapon. Daredevil is born. Jump back to where we came in. After defeating the Fixer's thugs, Daredevil confronts the boss and his enforcer, Slade. After a brief struggle, the crooks escape, but the sightless swashbuckler easily tracks the pair by the smell of the Fixer's cigar. In a bit of a cop-out on the violence, the Fixer has a heart attack while being chased by Daredevil and dies. Transit cops overhear Slade's confession while the devil is threatening him, and the Button Man is arrested for Jack Murdoch's murder, because that's how criminal law worked in the Silver Age. Back at the law office, Foggy and Karen ask Matt to call them for help if he plans to leave the house and disappear for hours again, because they believe his blindness makes the city far too dangerous for the young attorney. While very basic, the only thing which brings this story down is the constant effort to sell the reader on the character and the concept. But I think I can actually explain that. The creators of this comic took a major risk in introducing the world's first blind superhero. While I never enjoy seeing Matt's blindness reduced to a gimmick, it took courage to offer this book in 1964 and to say all people, including persons who are differently abled, can be super. Well, thank you for joining us. And remember, we're still a new show, so please let us know what you think. Reach out to us on Twitter and Facebook. We're easy to find. It's fwof comics, Fan Without Fear Comics, on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, always live without fear.